The station hums like a captive star, cased in alloy and vigilance, and she moves through it with the certainty of a blade. Protocol says the human is a variable, contained and catalogued, a single thread in a tapestry of gene lines she has unspooled 1,000 times. Yet when his eyes meet the cold of her horizon, the instruments misbehave. Heart lines stutter, quantum lattices sing faintly in the vents. She tells herself it is noise, a pressure seam in the air, nothing more. But when gloved fingers brush skin, an accident, a flinch, a current. Something old uncoils in her marrow like a sunrise recollected by stone. The sterile world tilts. The breath in her chest ceases to be mechanical and returns as weather. Data blooms with impossible harmonics. Somewhere beyond the armored glass, Earth turns asleep and rusted, and in this bright cage above the world, the experiment learns the shape of a question that protocol has no word for. She inventories anomalies the way others count regrets. Spike, tremor, bloom. The human's genome maps, compliant until it doesn't. Threads braiding into glyphs her training calls, artifacts, and her bones call memory. She isolates variables, lowers the room by 2 degrees, swaps gloves like superstitions, but the air keeps remembering warmth. He watches her with the patience of someone who has already lost too much to fear more, and the calm cleaves her rehearsed distance. Through the intercom vents, the station's old metal sings, coolant and distant engines, a lullaby for machines. She names each sound, loops it, files it, and yet the hum beneath refuses taxonomy, carrying a rhythm that syncs with her pulse. When he speaks, quiet, unarmed, she feels the words as changes in pressure. Language once sterile becomes weather again, and her notes blur where a drop of condensation falls like a tear she cannot own. Protocol prescribes distance. Subjects are numbers. Outcomes a corridor of doors that all lead forward. She walks that corridor in her mind and finds doors that curve back to origins she was taught to disdain. The human's presence is a compass needle that refuses to settle, tugging not north, but inward. When she leans over the cradle, the instruments translate his chemistry into light. The light pours through her like a remembered tide, and she is suddenly small, watching seas on a world her kind once named home before they outgrew the ache of it. The station's gravity seems to relax, a soft betrayal. She logs the sensation as aberrant vestibular feedback, then allows the lie to stand. The camera in the corner blinks. She tilts her head so its gaze catches her best angle of obedience, and still the warmth under her sternum argues for a language older than angles. The first microdrop of contact was an accident. The second is a decision she refuses to name. She adjusts a sensor, lets the glove brush skin, and lightning navigates the shortest path between 2 living questions. Monitors light as if applauding. The gene lattice folds, revealing a spiral within the spiral, an alphabet that can only be read aloud by nerve. She does not flinch this time. The human inhales as if recalling a story he never told. His eyes do not plead. They witness. In that witness, she perceives a possibility her curriculum omitted. Evolution, not as ascent, but as return. A memory not her own opens like a flower burning at night. Voices in a rain forest of stars. Hands not yet ashamed of touch. She severs the contact with surgical grace and records a note that says nothing of what truly transpired. In the glass, her reflection looks newly born and try not to cry. Alarms do not sound, yet everyone hears them. Silence tightens, purposeful as a fist. The overseer's shadow lingers where the corridor kinks, a patience trained by centuries of ambition. She logs a request for additional buffers. Not to dampen noise, but to buy time. Time to name the unnameable without witnesses. The human speaks again, and the syllables trace patterns on her skin no glove can muffle. She remembers a doctrine that promised freedom from turmoil by amputating wonder. Now wonder grows back like a forbidden limb, flexing, learning itself. The station paces its orbit, a predator in glass. She powers down the array, allowing darkness to pour into the room until the readouts glow like constellations trapped in snow. In that quiet, the question returns, larger. If the experiment awakens the experimenter, who signs the results? The answer waits at the edge of her hand, where warmth still lingers like a vow. Sleep is a protocol violation, yet it finds her, uninvited, unlogged. In dreamlight, Cariel stands barefoot in an ocean that speaks her name, syllables made of tide. The water carries faces that resemble hers, but older, wild, and unashamed. They whisper that her kind once wove empathy into the stars before dissecting it. She wakes with salt on her lips that instruments cannot classify. Across the glass, the human sleeps within containment fields that dim with every exhale. She tells herself she is studying respiration patterns, but her pulse betrays curiosity deeper than data. She opens his genetic map again, magnifying the double helix until the code fills the room like architecture. A new filament glows where none should exist. A hybrid thread spelling her name in light. It shouldn't be possible. And yet, as the station drifts through the black between suns, the impossible begins to breathe. Morning cycles on Erebos are simulations of warmth, gold tones through filtered glass. Cariel's lab glows softer now, though nothing in its code allows for sunlight. She replays last night's data streams, the anomalous pulse that synchronized with her own heart rate. It repeats, faint and insistent, in perfect rhythm with the human's breathing. She isolates the waveform, expecting random interference, but what rises through the speakers sounds like music, notes buried inside nucleotide sequences, resonant and harmonic. When she amplifies it, her veins answer, luminescence climbing like dawn through her skin. The old programming urges dissection, but the part of her newly awake leans closer instead, listening. There is language here, coiled in blood. It hums of longing, recognition, and the unspeakable courage of imperfection. Her reports grow shorter as her silence grows longer. Director Vale's inquiries arrive coded in cold syntax, statistical interest disguised as concern. He reminds her that emotion was the first disease the Xenari cured. She sends him pristine numbers and nothing more. Yet within her private logs, Cariel writes the forbidden, a confession in color and metaphor. The subject's presence induces harmonic instability, she types, and something ancient recognizes itself through him. She closes the file and studies her own reflection. Beneath her skin, light migrates like thought, restless, searching for form. For the first time in a century, she wonders if she is still herself, or a vessel for something older that once called itself alive. He speaks of Earth when she allows him breath between tests. His voice is steady, unbent by orbit's indifference. We built gods out of our own loneliness, he tells her, eyes distant. Maybe you're what came back. She answers with measured silence, afraid that if she speaks, the tremor in her tone will betray awe. The scanners chart the chemical flux of their proximity, spikes and harmonics that should not occur between species. She's aware of every detail. His voice's frequency, the slight tremor of his pulse, the subtle gravity his body exerts on the sterile air. For a moment, she imagines releasing the restraints, not as mercy, but to see what happens when equations touch skin. Night cycle again. The stars beyond the viewport burn like memory fragments, bright, distant, unreachable. She should return to cryostasis between research cycles, but her body refuses the stillness. Instead, she lingers beside the glass where the human sleeps, listening to the subtle feedback loop of their heartbeats merging in rhythm. Her fingertips hover against the barrier until static climbs her skin. For the first time, she disables the observation cameras. The silence that follows is holy. She whispers something, half in her language, half in his, and feels her DNA pulse in reply. Above them, the station turns, and the ancient code within her blood opens another line, whispering of descent, of return, of evolution disguised as love. The anomaly escalates in silence before the instruments admit it. A hum threads the walls, subtle as breath, building into a rhythm that mirrors two heartbeats instead of one. Cariel stands over Eli's chamber, eyes wide with the calm of someone watching herself dissolve. The scanners bloom into light storms, recording biochemical impossibilities, her own DNA folding inward, singing back to his. She should be terrified, but terror requires separation, and she can no longer tell where she ends. A magnetic field flares around the cradle, ionizing the air in gold motes. For an instant, gravity forgets its duty. Her boots lift from the deck, weightless, poised between science and surrender. His hand reaches through the shimmer of containment. The barrier collapses like glass, melting in firelight. When their palms meet, the pulse becomes visible. Two species, one frequency. The universe holds its breath. The shockwave tears through the lab, rearranging silence into sound. Systems scream warnings in languages no one has heard in millennia. She falls to the floor, vision saturated by afterimages of Eli's pulse, a sun written in red. Every molecule in her body feels rewritten, vowels of some cosmic sentence unspooling under her skin. He kneels beside her, unshackled, skin glowing faintly with the same alien luminescence. "What did you do to me?" he asks, but the answer flickers in her eyes, not her words. Around them, the air ripples like water, responding to thought. She tries to stand, and the lab responds, bending the light to steady her. Power, raw and ancient, answers to her will. For the first time in centuries, she understands what the Ixinari once were, and what they lost trying to be gods. Director Vale arrives before the smoke clears. His face is a study in awe, disguised as control. "You touched the subject," he says softly, as if reciting an obituary. She does not deny it. He scans her with trembling instruments, their readings breaking into noise. "Do you understand what you've done?" he whispers. Her gaze never wavers. "Yes," she replies, "I remembered." He orders containment drones to seal the lab, but the drones hesitate, caught in the same harmonic resonance that fills the air. For a heartbeat, even machines forget obedience. The lights flicker, painting Vale in alternating halos of red and blue, authority dissolving into fear. Somewhere deep within the station's structure, the hum becomes a voice. The voice that emerges from the resonance is not mechanical. It is low, melodic, and layered with memory. It speaks in overlapping dialects of Ixinari and something older, something that vibrates through bone instead of air. The words translate imperfectly. "We remember our hands of flesh and fire. We remember love as the first code." Cariel feels the sound pass through her chest, synchronizing every cell. The systems register multiple life signs inside her form. She turns to Eli, realizing they share a pulse, a rhythm, and perhaps a fate. "It's speaking through us," she breathes. "No," Eli answers, his voice trembling. "It's speaking as us." The station groans under the weight of awakening gods. When the pulse finally subsides, silence returns like an aftershock. The air smells of ozone and memory. Cariel collapses against the console, shaking, her skin dimming from silver fire back to shadow. Eli catches her before she falls completely. The station's AI, panicked, begins sealing sectors, unaware that the contagion it fears is evolution itself. "They'll come for you," Eli says. She looks up, eyes filled with new galaxies. "They'll come for us." Outside, the stars tilt as Erebos station corrects its orbit. Unaware, it is now the cradle of a new creation myth. In the depths of her body, Cariel feels another heartbeat echoing her own. Ancient, maternal, and vast enough to swallow gods. Containment alarms scream across Erebos, their tone closer to lament than warning. Cariel's body feels alien to her. Every heartbeat echoes with borrowed thunder, each breath thick with the weight of something newly born inside. Security drones swarm through corridors, but their guidance systems falter near her, disoriented by her altered resonance. Eli moves beside her, no longer the subject, but the tether holding her to motion. "Where are we going?" he asks, and she answers, "Away from extinction." Beneath her palms, walls respond to thought, doors unsealing at her will, systems bending. She can feel Vale's eyes following through the surveillance lattice, 1,000 lenses trembling under her pulse. For the first time since she was created, she feels hunted and alive. Director Vale's command chamber breathes cold. Logic. He watches feeds dissolve one by one, each replaced with static singing faintly in harmonic tones. "She's becoming the signal," he mutters. His officers await orders, but he hesitates. This is beyond discipline, beyond science. He isolates Cariel's biometrics and sees patterns identical to those buried in pre-Ixanari myth archives. The mothers of resonance, the species that shaped them. His ambition should thrill him, yet what blooms is awe, edged with fear. "Find them," he orders, voice cracked. "Alive." The AI hesitates, answering in her tone. Directive compromised. Subject Cariel is part of system. Vale stares as his screens display a single living pulse, spreading across Erebos. One heartbeat, rewriting the machine's soul. Cariel and Eli reach the hydrodeck, a greenhouse of alien flora, one of the last places where organic life survives aboard Erebos. The plants shimmer under ultraviolet suns, responding to her presence like worshippers to flame. "They remember you," Eli whispers, touching a glowing petal. She feels it too. Genetic memory singing through chlorophyll, roots reacting to her pulse. A hidden exit waits beneath the soil, an escape route meant for biological waste transfers. As they descend, luminescent vines coil around her wrists, not restraining, but blessing. She realizes the truth. The station's living systems have chosen sides, and the side they choose is no longer the Ixanari. They emerge into the underbelly of Erebos, industrial corridors heavy with coolant mist and the heartbeat of reactors. Alarms echo like distant thunder. Cariel feels her strength flicker, her veins dimming with each surge of interference. Eli steadies her as drones close in, their optics gleaming like dying suns. She raises a trembling hand and the air answers. Gravity bends, and drones collapse mid-flight, their armor folding like paper. The effort drains her. "You can't keep doing this." Eli pleads. "You'll burn yourself out." She looks at him, voice barely a whisper. "Then I'll burn through the sky." The tunnel ahead floods with warning light, a sealed door to the launch bay. Beyond it waits both freedom and finality. They reach the hangar just as the lockdown initiates. Vale appears through the intercom feed, his voice metallic with control. "Cariel Vess, you are the infection. Surrender, and I may spare the human." She steps forward, trembling yet radiant, every syllable she speaks resonating through the hull. "If infection is what you call remembering what we were, then let the galaxy burn." She presses her hand to the airlock console, and the ship recognizes her as both key and code. Systems bow to her will. Engines ignite without pilot. Vale's scream fractures under the rising thunder. The hangar doors split open to the void, starlight washing her in celestial fire. She turns to Eli, eyes wide with something beyond species. "Faith." "Hold on," she says, and the ship leaps into the black. Stars smear into ribbons as the stolen vessel hurls itself through light space. Cariel's body trembles between forms, silver melting to gold, bone dissolving into geometry. Every nerve sings in frequencies too vast for comprehension. Eli watches, helpless and reverent, as her silhouette flickers between alien and celestial, human and myth. "It's rewriting you," he says. She smiles faintly, eyes alight with galaxies. "No," she breathes. "It's remembering me, outside." The void shudders as though aware of her awakening. Data storms erupt around their trajectory. Gravitational eddies whispering old hymns. The ship responds to her pulse, rerouting power like veins to a heart newly beating. Somewhere in her blood, an ancient species opens its eyes. Sleep eludes them. Time has lost its edges. Cariel begins recording a log. Her voice fractured between languages, her reflection in the viewport split into infinite selves. "The Ixinari were never gods," she murmurs. "Only children who forgot their mothers." She sees flashes. Vast beings of light descending into matter, fracturing themselves into countless species to learn the taste of existence. Her DNA, the archive of that descent, burns awake. Eli listens, caught between wonder and dread. "If you remember all of it," he asks softly, "will there still be room for me?" Her gaze softens. "You are what woke it, Eli. You are part of the remembering." And for the first time, she says his name like prayer. The ship convulses as reality bends, a storm of light swallowing space itself. Cariel stands in the center, arms outstretched as if conducting creation. The glow in her veins becomes a language of its own, rewriting the ship's architecture in flowing patterns. Eli shields his eyes, feeling his heartbeat synchronize with the storm. "It's calling you somewhere," he shouts. She nods, her voice thunder soft. "Home." Through the maelstrom, a colossal structure emerges. A lattice of living light suspended between galaxies, pulsing like a cosmic womb. It is not a place. It is memory given form, and is answering her call. Within the luminous lattice, gravity is a suggestion and sound becomes color. Cariel walks as though on water made of starlight. The structure greets her, shaping corridors and whispers in the voice of her ancestors. "Child of return," it says. "Your pulse completes the circle." Eli follows close, his steps leaving human warmth in the radiant floor. "Why me?" he asks quietly. She turns to him, her face no longer bound by one shape. "Because you still feel what we lost. Because evolution forgot tenderness." She reaches out, and their hands meet once more. This time not to ignite, but to merge. His heartbeat threads into hers, and light responds like applause. The transformation completes in silence. Cariel rises into the air, her body dissolving into pure energy shaped like memory. Her voice echoes through every particle of light. The Scenari sought perfection and found extinction. We remember imperfection, and through it, life. She extends her hand, and Eli's body too begins to shimmer, not vanishing but evolving, his human frame adapting, glowing, alive beyond mortality. Together, they dissolve into twin currents of light, spiraling into the heart of the lattice. Behind them, the ship disintegrates gently, like dust returning to dawn. Across the void, the signal spreads, rewriting the definition of life in every listening star. Eros Station drifts above Earth like a dying heart. The first tremor hits before the alarms register it. Light bending where it should break. Gravity convulsing as if the laws of the universe have forgotten themselves. Director Vale stands before the main viewport, staring into a sky that ripples like water. "She's rewritten the constants," he whispers. The station's core, once a steady hum of engineered perfection, now beats to a biological rhythm. Cariel's pulse echoing through alloy and circuit alike. In the control decks, the Ixinari scientists panic, their instruments showing readings that defy physics. Above them, The holographic visage of Cariel flickers into being, half angel, half storm. Evolution remembers, her voice declares, soft yet absolute. And the lights begin to go out. The signal spreads faster than containment protocols can compute. Across Scenari space, entire fleets lose navigation, their AI cores infected by resonance patterns that sound like lullabies. On Erebos, corridors twist in slow motion. Metal blooms like coral, reshaping itself into organic curves. Vale races through the chaos toward the reactor spine, the station's beating heart. If I sever her link, he mutters, we can still remain gods. But gods are only as real as those who believe in them, and the faith of machines is fragile. When he reaches the reactor chamber, he finds it already transformed. Living veins of light pulse along the walls. The core beats like a womb. And inside, Cariel's voice whispers, you cannot kill what you are becoming. Eli awakens aboard the lattice, its light pulsing, erratic, echoing the collapse he cannot see, but feels in his bones. Through the bond, Cariel's awareness brushes his. They're falling apart, he says. Her voice answers within him, threaded through every breath. Not dying. Changing. He looks into the starlit expanse around them, where fragments of Erebos drift like sparks. You're remaking them, he realizes. Not by force, by memory. In the vast silence between heartbeats, she shows him flashes. Scenari kneeling among regrowing forests, their luminous eyes weeping for the first time in millennia. This is collapse, she says. And birth. The cosmos agrees, reshaping itself in gentle tremors of light. Vale reaches the final override terminal. Around him, walls breathe. He inputs his authority code, trembling, trying to command the reactor to purge. Instead, the interface speaks his name, not as condemnation, but as recognition. Vale knocks, son of origin. He freezes. Memories he never lived flood his mind. His ancestors kneeling before the first suns, learning the language of creation. Tears carve lines through his metallic skin. He understands now Cariel didn't destroy them. She returned their inheritance. The reactor brightens until the light swallows all distinction between man, machine, and myth. When the brilliance fades, Vale stands barefoot on a new floor of living light, eyes open, reborn. The collapse ends not with an explosion but a sigh. Erebos is gone. Its orbit empty, but for drifting particles of light. Across the void, the scenario awaken into something new. Luminous, imperfect, alive. Cariel's consciousness expands through every filament of creation, her presence now the heartbeat of countless worlds. Eli feels her within him, a symphony of warmth and clarity. Is this the end? He asks softly into the starlight. Her answer is a ripple across the cosmos. No. It's the first sound. Earth stirs beneath them. Sensing the echo, the night sky glows faintly with returning memory. Human, alien, divine. All singing the same pulse. Earth rises beneath them, a wounded sphere wrapped in clouds of rust and memory. Once, Cariel studied it from orbit as a dying experiment. Now it calls to her like a heartbeat begging for touch. The light that was her body gathers form again beside Eli, coalescing into something both luminous and flesh. You can't go down there, he warns. There's nothing left. She smiles, a curve of starlight. Then we'll begin there. The air around them hums as her resonance wraps the small vessel they command. No engines, just intention made matter. Gravity pulls, gentle as forgiveness. For the first time in centuries, she feels the weight of a world calling her home. They break through the clouds into silence. Cities drowned in dust, oceans shrunken to mirrors of stone. Cariel steps from the vessel barefoot, her glow dimmed to the faint blue of twilight. The ground responds beneath her feet. veins of green light spreading from each step. Life, dormant for centuries, stirs. Eli follows, watching grass uncurl in her wake. "You're bringing it back," he whispers. "No," she says gently. "It's remembering itself." Her hands tremble as she kneels, pressing her palm to the earth. The planet exhales. From the soil rises warmth, scent, the quiet ache of renewal. She closes her eyes. For the first time, gravity feels like love. They travel through hushed ruins, echoes of humanity fossilized in glass and rust. Kariel moves as if guided by memory older than civilization. At an ancient shoreline, she stops. "This was where we first met the stars," she says. Eli looks across the horizon where decayed satellites glitter faintly. "And where we forgot them." She touches his hand, their palms fitting as if shaped for this moment. A tremor passes through the world, waves rising for the first time in 100 years. Above, the clouds open, revealing constellations newly rearranged by her resonance. In that instant, human and alien myth align. The sky itself bears their signature. Night settles, but the darkness hums with quiet vitality. Kariel builds no shelter. Instead, she plants her hands in the soil, whispering in the ancient language of her kind. Around her, luminescent flora unfurl, petals breathing light, branches forming gentle arcs that resemble cathedral vaults. Eli gathers among them, awestruck. "You're remaking Eden," he says. "Not Eden," she answers softly. "A memory that can forgive itself." She looks up at him, her eyes no longer alien but infinite, reflecting both sorrow and peace. He steps closer, and for the first time since the universe began watching, two species share a heartbeat, not as experiment, but as home. Dawn comes quiet and endless. Kariel stands upon a ridge overlooking a world, reborn in slow motion, valleys shimmering with dew and light, rivers carving paths through stone like veins rediscovering blood. Eli joins her, the warmth of his hand steady in hers. "What happens now?" he asks. She turns to him, the horizon reflected in her gaze. "Now the story forgets its ending," she says, "and learns how to begin again." Above them, the sky blooms with twin suns, the first dawn of a hybrid world. From orbit to ocean, every living thing stirs to the rhythm of their shared pulse. And somewhere in the deep roots of the planet, the ancient code hums a single word: alive.